Hello, everyone. I am Julia Barberow, host of the Julia and Gino Podcast. I'm here with the co-founder of Jake and Gino, my husband and co-host, Gino Barberow.
Hey, Julia.
Hey.
How are you?
I am great.
Today, we're welcoming Mark Hancock, Chief Executive Officer of Trail Life USA, to the show. Mark began his career by founding an advertising agency that grew to national prominence over 15 years. He's now an author, award-winning writer, and speaker who can be heard on over 1,000 radio stations with his broadcast, Raising Godly Boys Minute. Welcome to the show, Mark.
Thanks, Julia and Gino. Great to be here.
Yeah, it's exciting to have you here.
So we're saying that you were a halfback. You're in Florida, going up to South Carolina. How did you start the mission of your company? Because it's such an amazing mission. Share the mission with the listeners for us, please.
Yeah, well, that's amazing. Trail Life USA is a Christ-centered, boy-focused character leadership and adventure organization. We're formed in over 1,200 churches across the country, all 50 states, over 50,000 members. I think we're close to almost 60,000 members now, participating on a weekly basis. We're formed in troops that go out and camp and hike, and uniforms and handbooks and a robust awards program, everything you would expect from an outdoor boys program. You may have heard of another one that's been around for over 100 years. And about 10 years ago, that one kind of began to lose its way. Boy Scouts of America kind of showed some signs that it was going to abandon some of the traditional values that it supported. And so about 300 volunteers across the country got together and said, we need to do something about this. And we formed 50 of us gathered in Louisville, Kentucky. 90 days later, we launched with 10,000 members on our first day. And now 10 years later, we're all over the country. So it's been quite a journey as parents are recognizing the importance of a Christ-centered, boy-focused mission and organization that reaches the hearts of boys.
You sounded like a New Yorker when you said your mission. It was so fast. I couldn't get it. And I'm a New Yorker. So can you just chunk it down and make it simple for a former New Yorker who left and went to Florida? So
I understand. I was actually born in Atlanta, so I could really draw it out if you need me to. But.
Please, for you listening, it's really good if you can draw it out for me.
Single thing. USA.
Yeah.
Christ-centered, boy-focused adventure, character, and leadership for boys. Our mission is to guide generations of courageous young men to honor God, lead with integrity, serve others, and experience outdoor adventure.
Wow. I love that.
That
is awesome. I'm just impressed, though, because a lot of times we go through, we see things like you were saying, the Boy Scouts were kind of losing their way. And a lot of us just get frustrated and we don't know what to do. And you and a bunch of other men came together and did something. And I really honor you for that, because too many times we're like, well, I can't really make a difference. Like, who am I to do anything? So thank you for doing that.
Well, let me ask you the bigger question, because she's giving you a pat on the back.
Are you going to give us the financial question?
Not a financial. What were the challenges in starting something like this? I mean, this is not like, let's get a few guys together, get a couple of beers, we'll hang out, have fun. That is not this. This has turned into something massive.
I got to tell you that I've done another number of startups in my life, different businesses and things. But I've always run my own. Like right out of college, I started an ad agency, shared that in the introduction, run a homeless ministry. I have 2 master's degrees in mental health counseling and marriage and family therapy. I traveled around the world for a number of years, putting together conferences and crusades on 5 continents, and done a bunch of different things. But this is the most amazing thing I've ever seen in my life. When we met in Louisville, 50 of us who didn't know each other, we came together and said, we have to do something about this. And there were 4 factions that were talking about providing an alternative to the Boy Scouts that would restore and be more attentive to the original values and intent of the Boy Scouts of America. And these 4 factions came into that room, like this, like, here's what we have. We will lay it down, because if we all try to do something different, it's not going to work. But if we do this together, it'll happen. And those 50 people in that room, ministry leaders, denominational leaders, scouting executives who had left the movement because of the decisions that were being made, Christian media folks, they left that room, and they left 7 men in that room. They said, in 63 days, we want you to hold a national convention that takes the energy from this movement and converts it into a grassroots movement that will become a boys organization. 63 days later in Nashville, Tennessee, we had 1,200 people come from 44 states.
Wow.
1,100 of them men. And our keynoter was Governor Mike Huckabee. Maybe you've heard of him. Mm-hmm. Dr. Michael Ferris. spoke to us there. We rolled out 63 days. 50 people didn't know each other, and the 300 volunteers across the country. The name, the program design, the intention, and then 3 months later, launched. And that's just crazy thinking. We didn't have any money. We just had this sense that there was a moment, and that we were called, and we had conviction about doing something for the next generation of boys. And so I can tell you guys that there's stuff that's in this program that we didn't put there, and I've been there from the beginning. It is a work of God, that we just kind of got to ride on this amazing ride that we've been taking, this adventure that we've been on. And now, like I said, we're on a 127-acre campus to south of Greenville, South Carolina. So our administrative facilities, we have staff all over the country, and we're just continuing to grow at an amazing pace. And it's been quite a journey.
What did your wife say when you told her in 63 days, I'm going to have 1,200 people at a campus and we're going to move our family from Florida to South Carolina? Was she like, yeah, Mark, go for it, baby?
We talk about that a lot, because it's like, what were we thinking? Because I kind of got grafted in, because I was never in Boy Scouts. My boys were in Boy Scouts, and we were a homeschooling family, so we attended all the meetings. I sat in the back. I remember being asked, hey, will you be a leader in the troop? And I remember saying one of those things that God kind of laughs at. I really don't feel called to lead in a boys organization. Right. So what happened is our troop said, hey, when Boy Scouts were making their changes, the church said, we just can't do this anymore. And I knew that there were going to be hundreds, if not thousands of churches. I said, we can't go down this path. And got caught up with this group of folks. And so I said to my wife, hey, there's this meeting in Louisville. It was kind of like the Willy Wonka golden ticket to be invited there, because all these people through Facebook or LinkedIn, all these things, forums, they're connecting, saying somebody has to do something. There's all this power behind it, which I wasn't really a part of all that. But I got 2 golden ticket invites to Louisville, and I was like brought in from the outside. I didn't, which of these things are not like the other me? I wasn't part of the Boy Scout movement. That's what a lot of these people were trying to fix. So I ended up in this room. So when you ask what my wife thought, it's like, honey, I've got this invitation to Louisville from 2 different places. And she's like, well, why don't you go check it out? And the troop says, hey, we want to pay for your airfare. I'm like, you should be going, not me. And they said, no, we really think you're supposed to go. So that was the first step. Honey, I'm going to go do this thing for a weekend in Louisville. And I call her from Louisville, and I said, honey, they've nominated me to be the vice chairman they nominated me for the chairman of the board, but I turned that down. But they've asked me to be vice chairman to bring them through to this convention, which we want to do in 68 days. And she said, and so it was like little by little, she said, yeah, I'll do that for 68. Because at the time, like I said, I'd done on 5 continents, I'd put together meetings. So the 7 of us sitting around the table, it's like, hey, anybody know how to put together an event? I'm like, I've done them in Tokyo and Buenos Aires and Paris and in Africa and Central America. And I could probably do one here. And so I was just the guy who raised my hand. And so I led that team in putting that thing together. And my wife came to that in Nashville. And that weekend was such a powerful weekend. I just remember she just said to me, honey, as far as this thing takes you, I'm with you.
That's awesome.
And she was running a crisis pregnancy center at the time. She had to lay that down for this as we moved up here. We had 2 boys. We had to sit down and say, hey, you guys in on this? And they were. And that just began something. So I thought, I'll bring them to their launch on January 1st, and then I'll get out of the way. Well, on January 1st, it was too late. The board asked me to go ahead and step off the board and serve as the COO. And then 3 months later, they said, we want you for the CEO. So it's been I never could have predicted the end from the beginning. So that's the long answer to your question.
Wow.
That's incredible. I love to see the story behind this success, because it's very successful. But what I really caught there was your family's willingness to let it play out. Yeah. Because we don't know when our husbands come, this is coming from a wife, when our husbands come and have this great idea, we have trust, but we don't know what's the outcome's going to be. And so even your boys, you're moving, there's a lot going on there. And I think we don't realize the impact our decisions have on our own family at home.
Yeah.
And
And I also had to live it out in front of
yeah.
them. My oldest son had just received his Eagle Award from the Boy Scouts, and they sent him an email saying, "You just received your Eagle. Are you going to join the Eagle Association? I forget what it's called, the Eagle Association, National Eagle something." And he said, "Dad, I really can't do this based on who they are now. So I'd like to respond and give them an answer." He's 14 years old. I said, "Son, pray about it and decide what it is that you want to say to them." And he came back the next day. My son, he was a philosophy major. He's a voracious reader and great writer. I thought he was going to give me this tome on what he was going to tell. He came back to me, guys, with 3 words that he said to the Boy Scouts of America, why he wasn't joining the National Eagle Scout Association. That's what it is. He said, "You weren't brave."
Mm.
And I thought, that's a big deal. If my son doesn't see me being brave, this organization that he worked so hard to achieve their highest award, that he's willing to walk away from, what is he going to say to me? And so I knew that living my life in front of my sons, it was so critical that I made moves that were out of conviction, that were in service, following after God, what we felt our calling was, and that were courageous, brave, a little bit crazy, and on the edge kind of. I just written a book called "Why Are We Sitting Here Until We Die," which comes out of 2 Kings chapter 7. And it's a direct quote out of the scripture. And it talks about that. It talks about going after the big things for God and taking a chance and getting outside your comfort zone and all those things. And so here was the presentation of, okay, now you got to live it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now you got to live it, and you got to live it in front of your sons. So it was quite a journey.
It's incredible.
The irony is that you've just partnered up with Brave Books to come out with the book.
Yes.
And we've had the privilege and the honor of interviewing a couple of Brave Book authors.
Have you?
I love the mission of that company. That's why I was like, we need to get Mark on here. Share with us the book that you launched. And I'd love to talk a little bit about the book as well.
Yeah, I love the book. It's called Too Much Tubular. And it's a perfect match for Trail Life, that sort of story. And so we partnered up with them to get this story out. And the premise of the story is that Tubular, which is Freedom Island's version of social media, has taken over the island, and people are zombie-like, just tied to these devices that are spitting out photographs and information on a regular basis, and they just can't get away from it. So you know where this is going. So all of society is caught up with Tubular. And the moral of the story, without spoiling it, the moral of the story is that the characters actually happen into the outdoors and find a Trail Life family camping out there. And they're able to say to them, "Hey, we're in the outdoors enjoying time with each other. Certainly Tubular is okay, but it's all in moderation." And so it gives a lesson of these certain things are tools for us. This format that we're using right now, there's nothing wrong with this format. It's helpful for people. But if you and I just did this all day, number one, we'd be really tired, but we would miss the personal, vital face-to-face connections that we need with people, and we wouldn't be moderating that behavior. And so the message of the book is, hey, we have to live lives of moderation and make sure that we're paying attention to each other, we're spending time with each other. And the great outdoors is a beautiful place. So I loved writing this book with Brave Books, because that's what Trail Life is about, getting boys in the outdoors, away from their devices and God's creation, spending time with friends and good godly men and their own parents. And so that's why I loved working with them on this book.
Can you hold the book
message.
up for the YouTube? The book is beautiful. Brave does such a great job with the colors, the graphics, the storyline. It aligns so well with your mission. So congratulations on the book.
Awesome.
It looks really amazing.
In the back, it has these great activities for the families to do together, and challenges for families to do. So we love it. Some of these are Trail Life characters, some Trail Life uniforms that are part of the book. And I was out in Houston a couple of days ago and got to sit down and read this around a campfire to a group of Woodlands Trail, which is our younger age boys 5 to 8 years old. And that's what it's written for younger children. And it was really neat to see the smiles on their faces as we looked at the pictures together and read the story and talked about the themes in the story. So that was pretty cool to be able to sit down there and read it with them.
Isn't it amazing also that you can do it as a father sitting down with the son? That's part of it. Because sometimes as parents, we don't understand how to convey those messages to our children and how to say social media bad,
Mm.
outdoors good. Well, Mark's laid it out to you in a beautifully illustrated, beautifully written book where you can sit down with your child and share, I think, one of the most important messages that you can have with your children, that really having your autonomy and being able to spend that quality time with your child. And social media, there's a need for it. You need to understand to be able to be on it, but it's also not the end all be all. Being outside and being connected with other people is more important than social media.
Yeah, it really is, and I love the fact that just reading to our kids is such a powerful thing to start with. And that's what I like about Brave Books is that it's stuff that you can sit down with your kids and read, and you know that it's not going to be filled with some sort of value or something that's uncomfortable for your family. It's right along the lines of what we believe as people embrace the truths of the Bible and the traditional American values that we support. It's a great place to bring our kids and to read those stories and to go through there and have the discussions that come out of those stories, to point to the character and say, what's going on here? Because you can walk in, these characters in the city in the story they're like zombie like because they're just caught in this tubular thing. You can sit there in a restaurant and you can point
Yes.
it at
100%.
family, everybody's sitting there on their phones. You say, and
Absolutely.
you can make the point. You say, look, they're they're caught up in tubular, and so there's a real life connection. But just the simple act of sitting down and reading to our kids,
Mhm.
number one determining factor of whether kids are going to be successful academically is, did their parents read to them when they were young?
Mhm.
So great stories that you can read them. Of course, this is just one book in the whole series. Bravebooks.com. You go there, you order the. Right now, this book is free when you do the. My book's free there when you subscribe to Brave Books, but you get a book every month, and they all have these sorts of values with writers like Missy Robertson and Kirk Cameron and Kevin Sorbo and folks like that who are
Yeah.
writing these amazing stories with the values that we love sharing with our
Mm.
kids.
Yeah. Mark, I love your brave. I love the word brave. I love that you brought that up because as parents, I've talked to a lot of parents and I'm going to ask you actually to talk to them now. We have a lot of listeners that are parents, and even if they're not, we're, aunts, uncles, everyone's out there listening that has some kind of impact on children. And too many times I've seen, and I kind of want you to address this. Too many times I've seen people say, well, that's just how society is now. It's just the kids are on the devices. They can't do anything about it. Yeah, they don't want to go outside. They don't want to be part of a group that goes hiking. What do you say to them about the importance and the ability to be brave and to be courageous around their children? And I know you touched on it a little bit, but can you give them some the first steps? Because a lot of people just don't know even how to bring it up.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Can you
yeah.
give them some guidance?
Yeah, no, the direction of our culture is it's really sad what we're seeing in
Mhm.
kids today. And particularly because we specialize in boys, we see it in boys. They're twice as likely to be in special education, 3 times more likely to have ADHD. They're falling behind girls in every single academic category. It's now more girls going to college than boys. Category boys are leading in is suicide, 10 to 14 years of age, fastest growing demographic. So it's really tragic what's going on. A lot of that is the result of a culture that's not willing to be brave, to stand up for the things that we know are true, to look at something and say, that's odd 1 month, and then the next month say, I guess that's just the way it is. And somehow to bit by bit give away what we know to make sense and to be true and to be in line with the values that we've held for generations. But we are allowing those things to kind of chip away at us. And as parents, we have to hang on to those things. Our kids are desperate for somebody to draw lines for them. We really believe that boys today they're ungrounded because what is it? 58% of Americans no longer believe that the Bible is a source for moral truth. Well, that's tragic. That's Americans,
Mhm.
and so how do you teach a boy or a child right or wrong if you don't have some sort of foundation? Because your right is different than my right, and your wrong is different than my right. But boys, in particular, desperately need a foundation for truth. So I would encourage parents: be brave, set down the foundations for truth, and say, "Thus far, no more. This is how our family lives." I remember we used to say to our kids all the time. We'd have to say things like, they'd come home and they'd say, hey, my friend so and so is doing this and this, and it's like that may be okay for them, But we don't do that in this household. And you do it in a way that's loving, and you do it in a way that says, but this is what we do. And then you invest the time, the face-to-face time, and sitting around the table and having dinner together, or playing games together, or investing in what's good for them, putting them in communities of people that share your values. It's frustrating for me to see parents say, "Oh, I'm going to put Timmy on a soccer team because he really loves playing soccer." Well, that's great, but look at that community you're setting him in. You look at that team, look at the coach. Your son may or may not end up being a professional soccer player and pay for you in your old age, but what you're doing he is going to embrace not just the skills of that community, he's going to embrace the values of that community. So don't choose those activities by the activity, choose them by the values that the community is representing. And so when you find a community of people who agree with your values, you got to go all in on that. And that's why in Trail Life USA, we have these 1,200 troops across the country who are embracing these values. We have a Trinitarian statement of faith. We believe in boys. We think boys and girls are different, that boys need a program that's aimed at them and their strengths. And so when you surround yourself with men of those sorts of values and that sort of conviction, your sons are going to embrace those sort of values. That's what they're going to become, like those people around them all the time, good or bad. So we have to, as parents, we have to make brave decisions to say, you know what? I'm not going to put you in that club. I'm not going to put you in that school. I'm not going to put you in that activity, because that's not who we are. And we're not shaming our children, and I'm certainly not shaming parents today. Listen, dads in particular, I'm not shaming you. I'm reminding of who you are. You are the leader of your household. You're setting the tone. You're instructing in character. You're setting an example for the way that we make decisions, not by popularity, but by what's right. And your son, without an idea of what's right, he's going to be just caught in the waves of wherever culture is taking him. So be brave, parents. Stand up for what's right with your kids. They're hungry for somebody who will say, this is right. Somebody they're going to resist it. But boys love boundaries. They love something they can push against that's going to hold. That's why we have such ADHD. Nobody's setting boundaries for them. So they just keep bouncing farther and farther away from center, because we're not holding them to the things. We're afraid to instruct them in what's right, because we've lost touch with that.
It sounds as if,
get back to those foundations.
Thank you.
It sounds as if Trailmark is a community. They have values. They create bravery for children. What would a church or a group expect when they join Trail Life? What are some of the activities that you guys do? How do you onboard them? What are some of the things that they can look forward to when they join Trail Life?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. Of course, every troop is different. You know, if I said to you, what should I expect from that Lutheran church or a Baptist church? Well, all Lutheran churches are going to have a little bit of a different flavor, because those Trail Life troops are an outreach of that local church. So a lot of times they're going to have the personality of that church. But what we do share in common is a handbook and a commitment to godly behavior and in the outdoors, enjoying the outdoors together. So they're going to find a troop that maybe once a month they're going to do some sort, depending on the age of the boys. We have age levels. So we go from kindergarten all the way to high school. Depending on the age, they may go visit a fire department one week. And then that weekend they may go on a hike, or they may go on a bike ride, or whitewater rafting, or canoeing, or camping, or hiking, or any number of things, depending on the age of boys, and of course that community, what that community offers. But you can expect outdoor adventure, learning skills. We have a robust awards program where boys are getting badges and awards for achieving things. And we have 7 frontiers that the boys grow in. It's a really well-rounded program, everything from values to outdoor skills to science and technology to hobbies, things that boys can experience in different frontiers to get an idea for what it is that they enjoy. Because there's so many times it's pigeonholed or lockstepped in the school experience, and they don't get to explore or to be exposed to things that they may enjoy. So we give this smorgasbord of opportunities for boys to find out where they fit and what they have fun doing.
That's awesome.
I love that. It reminds me a little. We interviewed someone from Wild at Heart there's an adult version, I guess it would be. And I love it because it talks about how God created the adventure pretty much for you guys, but some of us like it. I'm curious, is there like a Girl Scout type of thing coming on these days, or is it? I'm just wondering because I know Girl Scouts.
Can't we have
I'm
our
just
own
curious.
little thing? Can't it just be
It is yours.
Gino's
It's
little
all
thing?
yours. We have 5 daughters, Mark, and I'm just curious for their sake.
You get your own thing. But don't come over and mess with our thing.
You're not coming. We do not want to over. We do not want that. I'm just curious if because there was
there is an amazing organization called American Heritage Girls.
I know
they started about 20 years before we did because the Girl Scouts lost their way a long time before the Boy Scouts. So American Heritage Girls, headed up by Patty Garibay out of Cincinnati, Ohio. You should have her on your show. Patty's amazing.
Okay.
And American Heritage Girls, they actually were there at our beginning. They helped us get up and started because they were working with the Boy Scouts and they couldn't anymore, and that they wanted a boys organization. So beautiful in a church where you see they have a Trail Life troop and they have an American Heritage Girls troop, totally different organizations. They'll start out together, do the announcements, the Pledge of Allegiance, their oaths together, and then they'll break. And that's one night. It's a great family night because the dad goes with the sons, the mom goes with the daughters. All happens in one place, one night, in one church. It's a beautiful thing.
That is beautiful. That's what I was asking. I'm not trying to.
You got to rain in my parade. Over. This is my parade right now. Let me enjoy my parade.
I love
Mark,
it. I love
where do you see yourself the next 5 years with the organization as far as growing, as far as getting to more churches, more states? What does that look like for you guys?
Yeah, well, the future's bright. We see nothing but continued growth. We don't believe it's too late to tell us that kids aren't interested in the outdoors or that dads aren't interested in spending time with their sons. It's too late to say that that's impossible because we're already doing it. And the growth that we're seeing, it just continues to be just amaze us. Every year we have more and more boys. We've had almost 200,000 men and boys come through the program in the last 10 years. And like I said, we have almost 60,000 who are active today and just continue to see that kind of growth, 15, 20, 25% growth every year. We haven't hit, we're certainly not to the point of saturation. We just continue to, when families discover us, they say, hey, I've been looking for this for the longest time. And I'm looking for a way to connect with my son, or I've been looking for a way to connect with other men. We've men, that's one of the best kept secrets.
Share the values,
Great ministry for men. They find their brotherhood and working in the outdoors and raising up the next generation. And single moms love us because it's a safe place to send their boys, where there's this community of Christian men. Out in California not too long ago, we had a young man stand in front of his troop, had a single mom. He got the Horizon Award, which is an award right below the Freedom Award, which is the highest award. And he stood before that troop of men and he said, I need to thank the men in this room. You taught me how to shave and how to love Jesus. And I thought, they nailed it. Wow. They nailed it. So, and you got to imagine being that single mom sitting in that room, like, my gosh, my son has been surrounded by these godly men. Yeah. So single moms love our program. We have a lot of men in our program who don't have a son in the program, but they're interested in raising up the next generation. They're all background check, child safety, youth protection training. They have letters of reference. Very difficult for a man to join our program. You got to jump through a lot of hoops, but they do it because they see the value and they find their brotherhood there.
Only men can join. You see that? It's just no women.
Well, actually, no, that's not true. That's not true.
What are you telling me?
We have women members. We do have women members. But from 5th grade and above, the troop contact positions are all men.
Yeah.
So the younger boys, there's women in there. Women can they can serve on the committee. Women can serve all the way up to the National Board of Directors and Trail Life. We don't have a problem with women. We just know that you can't make godly boys without godly men, and so we surround them. Right.
Well, I appreciate that. I remember years and years ago, my husband and I would watch TV, and we'd be so horrified by the way that they portrayed men, especially like just father figures. It was so disturbing, and so this is so needed in our culture. And so when we have someone like you talking about, I know you weren't planning on doing this, but God had this plan for you, and you actually you just said, okay, yes, I'll do it. And I mean, when we do that, I mean, the success that comes out of it is just beautiful and incredible. And so as a mother, I'm so thankful for people like you, because we need, I mean, my girls hopefully will be married at some point, and obviously we want good, godly men marrying them.
I have so much to say about that, Mark, because my wife is always saying to me, I've got this idea.
I know.
So she's got the idea and I have to execute. And
know.
the execution is a lot.
But I have
more,
complete
can be
trust
difficult.
in you.
I know you do, but there's a lot of work. Mark, it's amazing the work that you've put into this and the growth that you've experienced in a pretty short period of time. And what I want to do before we sign off, can you give us where people can get more information about Trail Life? I also want you to hold the book up again.
And you also have another book, too. You can hold that up as well for the YouTubers.
TrailLifeUSA.com, TrailLifeUSA.com. There's a tab on there called Get Connected. And you find a troop, you put in your zip code, it shows you all the troops that are nearby and how to connect with them. Or if you don't have a troop, it shows you how to start a troop. It takes 5 adults in a church that's convicted about the next generation. But too much tubular, you want to go to bravebooks.com. You get this for free when you subscribe and to Brave Books. And then also at Trail Life USA for free right now is a download of Raising Godly Boys. And we go through a 4-step proven process for turning boys into godly men. It's actually a guarantee that we have in Trail Life USA. We tell our churches, if the boys in your troop are not becoming godly men, you get your money back. Mm-hmm. We feel that strongly about what it is that we've discovered about how to turn boys into godly men. Another free book available right now is called Let Boys Be Boys. It's 3 winning strategies for leaders of boys. It talks about the biological, psychological, developmental differences between boys and girls that proves that we need a different environment for boys. Boys are not defective girls. They're not a social disease that needs to be eradicated. They are different. And when we provide the correct setting for them, we get the winning, focused men who will do things like storm the beaches of Normandy and free the world of tyranny because they believe in themselves and we let them be who it is that they want to be. We're losing those folks at a rapid rate because we're not treating them like boys. So Let Boys Be Boys, Raising Godly Boys, and of course, Too Much Tubular for your kids. It's a great book.
And beautifully said.
Wrap it up, baby.
No, you are the rapper.
I'm the rapper. What I like is go back, and I'm not going to have Mark say the mission statement again because it was just. But I've written down here
so good,
is turning boys into godly men. I think that's something that's so well needed. Mm-hmm. I think for any dads out there that need to have that connection with their children, I would go out and please buy the Brave books. I think it's great. I think Mark's other books are amazing. Go to Trail Life, go to his website, sign up for that as well. And I like your story. Ad agency, homeless ministry, your wife had the pregnancy intervention, that as well. I mean, all of that led up to what you're doing now. I mean, that's the amazing part. You think, oh, this just happened. I think your life had steps, and I think we all do. So if we look back on our lives, we have steps that are leading us to take the next path. And what I love about your story is that you were open and honest and said to yourself, what is my next step? And I think you trusted in God in that next step. And it's made all of the difference in the world. It's just been an amazing story. So I just want to thank you for being on, for being a guest, and for sharing your story, and for sharing Trail Life. And for the dads out there, go out and check it out and start connecting with your boys at a higher level.
Well, thank you guys. I so appreciate you giving me this opportunity.
Thanks, Mark. Take care.
Thanks, everyone.